Okay, so today we're going to do a chicken, and it's not a rotisserie chicken. It's going to be sort of a roast chicken, and we're going to use this giant pot my mom just gave me, which is fantastic. It's really, really heavy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use some lardon, which is exactly the same thing we used for the quiche, some red pepper, some potatoes, and we're going to get some onions. And I keep my onions up in one of these little, it's just a basket actually that hang up there, and I find that it keeps them fresher for longer, and of course, you know, they shouldn't be in the fridge. So we've got chicken here, and this one I bought at the grocery store, and it's already ready to go, and so I don't really have to do much to it. It's already been obviously prepared. If I got it at the market here in France, of course I'd have to do a lot more work, and since I don't know really how to do it, I'll have to ask my mother-in-law. So we'll just take the lardon, and I'll cut it into little sections, exactly the same way that I did, in fact, for the quiche. Last time we had a video on the quiche, just little sections like this, and we sprinkle it in there. The key to this particular recipe, which is a recipe from my mother-in-law, is a sauce made uniquely of butter and a little bit of olive oil, as well as a bouillon, which is a little cube of this little thing here, of stock, basically, and it's a broth stock. I think in some places it's called that. Little bouillon cubes. And marks in the States are OXO, O-X-O, also Knorr, K-N-O-R-R, and Herbox is another one. It is, and I'll tell you, just drop one of those in. We're going to add some water in a bit. Of course, we're going to use our onions. 2 onions. That was about, by the way, that's 1 chicken and 1 medium-sized chicken, and that was 200 grams of lardon. And this is now 2. It's funny because the onions in France are much smaller than onions in the States, and so this is a normal size cooking onion. And we'll use 2 of them. In the States, if you have an onion about that big, you only obviously want to use 1 because they're much, much bigger. This is this is a Sunday, and so this is a recipe where when the family's off doing something and you just have a little bit of time, you want to go into the kitchen and make something easy but that's really delicious. This is the recipe for you. So it's low maintenance. This is just chopping up into small pieces like this, no big deal. It doesn't even really matter how you chop them up because they're going to be so small by the time you take it out of the oven. Don't forget, if you have a regular electric oven, that you preheat your oven to 350 convection. But in any case, you'll be cooking it for about an hour. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a really, really simple recipe. And one alternative you can do if you have a little bit more time or if you're feeling a little bit more energetic, is you can saute your onions in butter, in just a spoonful of butter, before you put it on top of the chicken, and that gives a little extra flavor. If it's for some guests or something like that, it's a good idea. We're gonna use about half a red pepper, and then we're just gonna cut it into long stripes like we did for the quiche. This just looks pretty when you serve it. And you can, of course, use green pepper or yellow pepper or orange pepper or whatever you want. I like red pepper. I think it's a pretty color. And you only use about half of it, so I'll save that for later. Now, the next thing that you'll want to do is your potatoes. Now, in the video on green chic, you'll notice that I always talk about reusing the bags. And here's an example of how I've done that. I'm going to use, let's see, we're only 2, so I'm going to use 3 potatoes. Yeah, just 3 potatoes. If you're obviously a larger family, put some more potatoes in. And so, of course, I leave the skin on the potato because all the nutrients is in the skin. I'm not a big fan of taking off all of the skin of cucumbers or potatoes or carrots. I think that it's best to leave it. We'll give it a good wash and leave it in. So we're cutting them into slices. I don't know, what is that, ½ centimeter, and just again slice them around. Okay, so once you've put the potatoes in, don't forget that the potatoes are not already boiled, and here's why. if you go ahead and boil, these are little potatoes, and if you go ahead and boil them beforehand, once the steam of the mixture and the sauce itself creates it, they'll get kind of mushy and they'll kind of fall apart. So it's best actually to just have the potato. It's not that hard, and the steam of the sauce is going to cook it really well. Now here, this is a French olive oil, and it's great. It's a great one. And you're going to use, I usually do this freehand, but just for you guys to show how much I use, it's about, I'm actually out, but I would use, if I had more, since I don't have any more, if I had more, I would use an entire spoonful. That's a tablespoon, and just sprinkle it all along over them. Vegetables. Buy some more. Put that on my list. Then you're going to sprinkle some salt. Don't forget to use your hand so that you don't get too much. Just sprinkle it all over. Salt's important for this particular recipe because there's lots of vegetables, and we didn't do anything to the chicken because it's a really easy recipe. We didn't do anything to the chicken before we put it in. If you're a big Julia Child fan, you'll know that she recommends putting butter, smothering butter all over the chicken itself. But again, we'll do one like that because but it's a little bit more involved. Here is some sel du beurre, which is from Normandy. It's a really great one we have here in France. But you can see actually in the butter, there's little crystals of salt, which is sea salt, which is in there. So it's a really great butter. And I use a big chunk of it. About 1/4 cup of butter. And I cut it into 3 sections. And what you want to do, rather than with Julia Child when she rubs it all over before she puts it in, which is another great recipe, but it's more labor intensive. So we just stick it in sort of 3 parts of a little bit down onto the chicken as much as possible. You can also put a little stick inside the chicken if you're so inclined. I think I won't do that today. We're going to use some salt and pepper. Seasoning is important, so we have the little cube, which will give sort of a nice sauce when we add the water in. I've just sprinkled fresh ground pepper onto the mixture. And the other thing that's important is Roc de Provence, which you can find at Whole Foods. My mom has found it, and also at some other leading grocery stores. Roc de Provence. It's the same thing we'll be using later on in the boeuf bourguignon in that recipe. Just sprinkle it over nice. It gives a real earthy, wonderful flavor. Get my measuring cup out of here. And because we're American, we're going to use about 1 cup of regular cold water. And just sprinkle that all over everything. This is what's going to give the sauce. Also, it's going to cook the vegetables. And with the bouillon, which we've put in there, that little tablet, that's going to make a nice sauce. And the last ingredient we have is really the special ingredient of this particular recipe, and it's prunes. This is going to sound probably a little bit strange, but they're really great. These ones, get pitted prunes if you possibly can. Here in France, of course, things that are like seedless grapes don't exist, and pitted prunes are hard to find. So but I know that you can find them easily in the States. These are fresh ones. Canned or stewed prunes are less desirable. It's best to have fresh ones. And so if you can't find them in your particular area, or if you happen to be in France, then you just have to pit them. It takes some time. Here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 10, or just a handful of them. It gives a really wonderful sweet flavor to the mixture. Okay, so once you have your prunes, whether you've had to pit them or not, here they are. And then just cut them into little sections, maybe 3 per prune, 3 sections per prune. And then what we're going to do is throw them into the mixture. That's with everything else. And again, the more you put in, the more fabulous of a flavor. I only had 7 there, but I'd put maybe 10, maybe even 15, cut up into little pieces. It has this wonderful sweet flavor to the sauce. It's really fabulous. What we're going to do is we're going to cover it, put it in the oven at 350, and in about 30 minutes we come back, give it a big stir. Well, we'll do it together. How about that? Okay, and so now, oh, it's heavy, be careful. The pot itself is so heavy. And then with the chicken and everything inside, so, oh, here we go. Place it in the oven. Make sure you don't burn yourself. There we go. And we'll be back in 30 minutes to give it a stir together. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes, and now we're going to check to see how it's going and make sure that the sauce is progressing properly. Don't forget that in these kind of pots, they're very heavy. Longestino one here. Alright, so you'll see that. Get the light on here. Alrighty. You'll notice that the vegetables are becoming steamed. You'll see here on this potato that it's basically cooked except for the very interior there. The prunes are doing well. I have to make sure we have enough sauce. Yeah, there's lots of sauce in here. You see that? We want to sprinkle it on top. So get down here into the sauce and sprinkle it all over the chicken to make sure that the bouillon, which you put on the side, is nice and mixed up. That's what you want. And you can stick some of the vegetables down into the sauce to make sure that they'll be nice and well cooked. As soon as you walk into the kitchen, you can smell the look. It's fabulous. It smells so good. Make sure that you're putting it all over. Now, one thing, if you like your chicken a little bit, the skin of it a little bit crispier, then one thing you can do is put it in the oven for about 10 minutes without the lid. And that will give you a nice sort of crispy, brown tan color to the chicken if you like that. I think I'm going to put mine back in for about 10 minutes to give it the nice brown color. I just think it's prettier. And then I'll take it back out again, put some sauce, spray some sauce over it again, and then put the cover back on for the remaining 20 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, it's been about 10 minutes and the chicken is nicely browned on top. So we're just going to take that out and do a little bit more juicing and then put it back in for the remaining 20 minutes. Turn the light on, do a little bit more juicing. It does take a little bit, when you have it open like that, it does take a little bit of the sauce off. So you want to make sure that you, careful with your potatoes. If you really touch them a lot, they're going to fall apart, obviously cooked potatoes. But you want to give, if you want it to be even a little bit darker, obviously, leave it in a little bit longer. And so I do have one. I found it. Here it is. Sort of a squeeze it like that and get it. So we just put it in here. Squeeze up some of the sauce. Squirt it on over. That's the easiest way to do it, for sure. I think this was probably in my stocking last Christmas. So thanks for that, Mom. It's really important because what you want is a lot of this butter sauce to be all over this chicken. That's the really key ingredient. So we'll put that in, we'll cover it up, put that in for another 20 minutes to cook, and then we'll make sure we'll do it together, but we'll cut in to make sure that there's no pink left, and then it'll be ready to go. So, see you in a bit. Okay, so it's now been about 25 more minutes after we put it back in for the second time. Oh, and let's see here. Voila, so perfect. This is exactly what you want. Notice that your prunes are a little bit brown, your tomatoes, your red pepper around the edges, everything's a little bit brown. If you notice the sauce, let me show you the color of the sauce. I'll get my spoon here. Sauce is a lovely brown color, and that's exactly what you want. So yay, good job. And we'll just, to be safe, you should always just give it a little cut, maybe somewhere where they can't see it. There is no pink there. So this is ready to go, and that's basically what it's gonna look like. When you serve it, pick it out, put it on your plate, put the vegetables around it, drizzle the sauce all over it. You can also put the sauce in a small sauce container, and there you have it. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday lunch. See you next time. Bye.